Welcome to Wednesday evening with the Clear Mountain Monastery community. This evening, we're very happy to have James Baraz with us. James, thanks so much for joining us.
A real pleasure.
So I'll read James' biography. So James Baraz is a founding member of the Spirit Rock Meditation Center. He started the Community Dharma Leader program, the Kalyana Mitta Network, the Spirit Rock Family Program, and helped create the Heavenly Messengers Training Program. James serves as a guiding teacher to One Earth Sangha, a virtual EcoDharma Center devoted to Buddhist responses to climate change. He co-authored Awakening Joy and Awakening Joy for Kids, and also leads, I think, yearly online courses on Awakening Joy since 2003. So, James, we're really happy to have you here. And as people can hear, if they don't yet know you, this theme of joy is one which has been a through line, it seems, in your Dharma life. But just reading actually the preface, the intro to Awakening Joy, it sounded like there was maybe a somewhat long, significant period in your practice when joy was not there. I think you talk about being dead, all caps, DEAD, serious about meditation, and that joy was not really a part of your meditation life, your Buddhist life, your contemplative life. Can you talk a bit maybe about that period before we go deeper into joy, and maybe curious also what changed?
Sure. I'm getting an echo. Oh, no, now I got it. That's good. Yeah, first, just want to say it's a real pleasure to be here and to hang out with the two of you. I've been really enjoying getting to know you through your recordings. I love your 10-minute Majjhima and all the other beautiful work that you've been doing. So I'm just so happy to spend the time. As far as joy, yeah, it was a bit of a trajectory. I came to Buddha Dharma first from where I really got into the Dharma was through a bhakti vehicle, reading Be Here Now in the early 70s. It came out in 71, and it was like my Bible for it's always been my Bible in a way, but for those first few years, and then went out to Colorado, and when Naropa was first starting, and asked Ram Dass, who was one of my two teachers, about meditation, because I'd been doing transcendental meditation, and he said, "Okay, check this guy Goldstein out, Joseph Goldstein. He's pretty good." And Joseph had just come back from Asia, and when I heard the Dharma in that summer of 74, it was like coming home. And I had found what I was looking for. And for quite a while, I had a pretty long honeymoon period. As people sometimes, when they discover the Dharma, they say, this is it. And just screaming down the streets, you just have to be mindful. You just have to be mindful. And, I love to turn people on to things that I believe in. So that was the best thing I could think of. That lasted for probably about 10 years in that level. And I was teaching at some point during that time. Then at some point I did lose my joy. And for me, and it can happen in many ways, but I became very serious about my practice, as you quote me, dead serious. I think actually Ajahn Sumedho was the one who I might have lifted that from him somewhere in my brain cells. But I took on a more strict Burmese style approach to practicing with some really great masters, one of whom is sitting a 3-month retreat, and every evening at the end of his Dhamma talk, he'd say, as I recall, may you attain nibbana and speedily escape from the woes of this world. And the message was, get out of here as fast as you can. And there I was having a very deep retreat, actually, but getting that message that it's not okay to delight in life and celebrate life, which had been a very big part of my nature. So it was a little confusing. It was very confusing. And I was teaching, even though I understood on a conceptual level otherwise, there was something somatically that felt out of sync, because I was getting this subtle message, no, it's not okay to enjoy life. And I do enjoy life, whether it's music or sports or, loving life. I do have a bhakti nature. And then, but hanging in there and, believing in the Dharma and believing in practice. And it wasn't really until actually what brought me back, a few things brought me back. One, it was seeing, okay, this can't be what the Buddha spoke about, was talking about, because he was called the happy one. He wasn't called the joyless one. And he talked a lot about joy. So actually, it wasn't until I met another teacher, not a Buddhist teacher. Maybe I'll hold this up. This is another one of my teachers.
Punjaji?
Punjaji, yeah, Papaji, HWL Punja. Papaji, an Advaita teacher, a disciple of Ramana Maharshi, or Dharma heir of Ramana Maharshi, and he helped me break the spell. And in fact, I just saw somebody just sent me a video of the conversation at the end of being there for 3 weeks that did it. I never realized there was a video that existed, but they put something out, a compilation of a number of different dialogues. And in that dialogue, I asked Punjaji, I said, you talk about emptiness all the time. It was his favorite word. And I said, I have one last question, because he said, give me your questions. Give me all your questions. I said, I have one last question. Give me your question. I said, when Buddhists speak about emptiness, and Buddhist teachers, there's this solemnity, this seriousness, just the profound understanding of emptiness. You talk about emptiness and you're laughing and you're having just a great time. Why is your emptiness so much more fun than mine? What I've been going through, or what I think Buddhists often present, Theravadan Burmese Buddhists, and in that I was exposed to, not all of them, but that was what I was exposed to, and he said, if you've touched emptiness from the stillness of a meditation cushion, it can easily be misunderstood that is the real access to emptiness, and that appearances are less noble, less refined. That's just a distraction. And he said, my emptiness, nothing is rejected from my emptiness. My joy, my sorrow, my love, my anger, nothing is rejected. And then he would laugh, ha 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 ha. And it helped. It broke the spell to see, samsara and nirvana are one. And it's like Yeah, or there are all these teachings. If you hang out with the Tibetans, or you hang out with Ajahn Chah, who laughed a lot, then it brought me back to myself. So that was when I decided, okay, where did I miss the point here? And I want to see just what the Buddha did say about joy, not just the quiet joy on the cushion, but being alive and being fully engaged in life. That started me on that other direction in my practice.
Thank you, James. Your trajectory is one that I think mirrors many of ours. The Buddha speaks about the Cetokila in the Majjhima Nikaya, like these barrennesses of the heart, like, land that hasn't been rained on for months at a time. And, so many of the words, you're right, he speaks about joy all the time, but there's all these words he uses. There's piti, rapture, refreshment in meditation, or sukha, pleasure, compared to water. And you speak about that visceral sense. There's pamoja, there's mudita, rejoicing, there's gratitude, which you speak of. And, I'm curious, like, these stories have an impact because they symbolize a turning point, but also they're not enough. For you then really moved at least as far as I understand, much of your intention towards drawing out these modes of joy and awakening joy, these fundamentals of 10 ways of people accessing that well-being, and even in the midst of a very difficult world, and the woe-filled world, or whatever the teacher was referencing there. So what practical means would you give people in terms of finding that joy in their life when their practice had become dry, or where they really were up against that same barrenness of heart?
Yeah, that's the question that I asked myself too. And when I was looking at this at the teachings, I wanted this all to be really based on the teachings, or I didn't have a plan. Oh, I'm going to write a book and do a course. I was finding it for myself. One teaching that was actually, there were three teachings that the whole thing, the whole course and the book was based on. One is on wise effort, which there's four, as you know, I'll just share with those listening. There are four components to wise effort: guarding against the unwholesome, overcoming the unwholesome when it arises, cultivating the wholesome, and the fourth, that doesn't get a whole lot of airplay, maintaining, and in some translations, maintaining and increasing wholesome states when they arise. What is that about, maintaining and increasing a wholesome state? How do you do that? And then I came across another lesser known sutta. I'm sure you know it. You'll be getting to it probably in another couple of months. It's Majjhima 99. To Subha.
Yeah.
Where he talks about equipment of mind, and just getting shivers as I remember. He says, there's a gladness connected with what is wholesome. And I take that to mean there's a feeling of uplift that is experienced. And in that sutta, he says, if you're in the middle of a generous act, it's good to think to yourself, oh, I'm being generous now. Not, hey, check it out and look how generous I am, but just, oh, how good it feels for generosity to move through me. And then in the sutta, he says, that gladness connected with the wholesome, I call an equipment of mind to overcome all ill will and hostility. One gains inspiration in the meaning, inspiration in the Dhamma. One delights in the Dhamma. So that was a key, because that gladness is more than just an idea. It's a somatic experience. And it's shown in neuroscience, when you pay attention to a feeling of uplift with mindful awareness, it deepens it and increases it. And that's how you maintain and increase the wholesome state. Not by grasping. As soon as you grasp it, it's turned into an unwholesome state, because unwholesome states are states of contraction, and kusala, wholesome states, are states of expansion. So for me, that's the whole game right there. And so when you're having a state of expansion, even if it's just a slight shift from contraction to expansion, that's good enough. Then just pay attention to it. So all of awakening joy sometimes is distilled by people, and I say now, in 3 words: don't miss it. Because it's so easy to miss it, but to take it in, marinate in it, savor it without grasping, and that's how you deepen it, which goes to the third principle, where in Majjhima 19, whatever the practitioner frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of the mind. So I thought, okay, there are all of these wholesome states. We can cultivate them over time and keep on paying attention when they arise. And over time, they start to become your default setting, because you start to be on the lookout for the good, which counteracts a very strong negative confirmation bias of looking for what's wrong. So that's when I put these different 10 states together. So to end in that long-winded way, to answer your question, when you're experiencing a moment of goodness, of wholesome happiness or well-being, don't miss it. Just really be with it, marinate in it, just take it in. And instead of thinking, oh, feeling good right now, oh, this is what it feels like to feel good. And just those few moments make all the difference.
Yeah, really, really appreciate that, James. And a lot of resonance, as a young man in my early 20s, thinking about monastic life, seeing these old photos of Mahasi Sayadaw or U Pandita, just so stern. And I thought that was, the serious practitioners, the ones who were really doing it right, are the ones who are basically never smiling. And I think it was a good fortune for both of us, but certainly for me, to come to these Ajahn Chah monasteries and meet Ajahn Pasano, a direct student of Ajahn Chah, who, had seen people picking up Buddhism, and especially monastic Buddhism, but also just Burmese flavored Buddhism in the ways that we pick it up in the West. He's seen people try to do that hardcore way, like super serious. I'm the most serious because I don't smile mode of things. And one of his teachings, which I really took to heart and was so good for me, was he says, people in America, they think that once I get my meditation together, then I'll be happy. But you find this pattern in the suttas where the Buddha says it's actually the other way around. It's once you get your happiness together, then the meditation will start clicking into place. And he was referring to something which I've come to call the well-being cascade, which is, it's pointed to in that Subha Sutta from a number of different entrances. One, when doing an act of generosity or recollecting, I'm someone who tells the truth, it gives rise to pamoja, well-being, connected to the Dhamma, connected to the meaning, which leads to piti, or rapture, which leads to tranquility, which leads to sukha, or happiness, which then leads to concentration. And there's all sorts of suttas where that kind of pattern comes in. And one of the things I appreciated about your book was that the first step was all about intention. And I think just a meta recognition that, you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to it and really intend in the direction of well-being and joy. Could you say more about that first step?
Yeah. By the way, and just want to mention a very brief anecdote on what you're saying. when I went to, I shared with you a picture last week, this week, of visiting Ajahn Chah. In 1977, we went to first visit Mahasi Sayadaw, and we had this 2-year-old, this cute kid that made everybody laugh. And when Mahasi Sayadaw was there and he started to laugh, or smile, he put his fan up because it was unseemly for a monk to smile. And I was saying, wow, if this is where it's going, I don't know if I'm ready to dive into this. Fortunately, then we visited Ajahn Chah right after that. And Ajahn Chah was laughing and just so light and deep. And I said, okay, if this is where it leads, I'm in. So, but I forgot about that part when I got into that very serious stuff after being with the Burmese. But so just reframe the question one more time as far as the.
If you could, thank you for that anecdote. And I was wondering, I would love at some point if you could flesh out that scene of meeting Ajahn Chah. I think I've heard about the different Dhamma teachers that went there in 1977, but wasn't exactly who all went and how long you stayed, and if Ajahn Babakaro or Ajahn Sumedho were translating. So would like to hear more about that, but also the question was about intention in general.
Yeah, intention. It all starts with intention. That's, the Buddha said, intending, I tell you, is karma, through body, speech, and mind. Or the Tibetans say, everything rests on the tip of one's motivation. So that makes complete sense to me. It's one thing to know the teachings and to be inspired by them, but to connect it with a decision. It's one thing to have the idea, but the power comes from deciding to place well-being in the center of your life, which is a radical kind of a thing, because, I should be last, or it's not okay for me to be happy when when there's so much suffering in the world, or, if I really let myself feel good, then the shoe's going to drop on the other foot and I'll be so disappointed and all. Or we just postpone it. Or when I find the right partner, when I get the right job, when I retire, then I'll be happy. And as the Buddha saying, no, okay, right here, right now, have the intention, not out of selfishness, but actually out of a generosity, because everybody gets the benefit of your well-being, to cultivate and see your own well-being is what unlocks all the beautiful qualities for everyone to share. So it all starts with that decision.
James, the following steps include one called Joy in Difficult Times. And I know this is something you really grappled with, confronting the climate crisis, which led to One Earth Sangha. And I think it's on a lot of people's minds right now with the current situation in the world, which, people can have different opinions about, but certainly a lot of people have a lot of fear and anger. What advice would you give people? What kind of practical steps or really concrete movements of heart and mind and life would you give them for holding well-being and their center in the midst of the deluge?
Yeah, that is that's the question facing every practitioner, and probably every person who cares about kindness and inclusivity and understands interconnectedness, how to not just stay sane, not be overwhelmed, but how to bring out the best in the middle of all of this ignorance, confusion. And for me, a simple way, well, it's right out of the Buddha's teachings, but I'm very inspired by Joanna Macy, who I was fortunate enough to have a friendship with, who just passed away this past year. She lived right here in Berkeley. And in her spiral, it says it very well. I don't know if you're familiar with her spiral in the work that reconnects. And this is what I do in Awakening Joy, although I hadn't actually been familiar with her spiral when I first read it. But her spiral starts out with gratitude. First, you open up to all the good in life, because it's so easy to miss it by tuning into whatever headline is going on. And you're like, I can't believe it today. Oh my God. And every day it seems to get crazier. And you forget and miss out on all the goodness in life. So it starts with that perspective. And in my book, in my course, after intention and mindfulness being the key, then is gratitude, opening up to all the good. That creates a container to process all the sorrow. One Tibetan teacher, Sokni Rinpoche, talks about gratitude both to the lineage and to life as kind of like putting out your satellite dish, where you're saying, thank you. And when you say thank you, then all the blessings of life can be received. But if you're going around, oh, we're doomed, and there's no hope, and oh, there's this wrong and that wrong, you can't even receive the blessings of life. So you keep in mind all the good. And in my mind, there's many more people who love goodness than love mean-spiritedness. So it's in there, I think, and I think all of us just want to be loved and feel safe. But that's a big part, to not miss when there is wholesomeness, when you do have a toilet that flushes. That's what's just coming up in my mind right now. I'm not censoring myself. Or food that is healthy, or medical care, or access to, there's so much to tune into. And that bigger container helps you then honestly process all the pain. And you can't bypass that. If you do, you're just living in denial. And that's why the Buddha started out with the first noble truth. Yet the more you understand and can not be afraid of suffering, the more you come to the end of suffering. So to then feel all the pain in a skillful way where you know your window of tolerance, but feel it, process it, honor the sadness. It's what deepens your compassion. Then every moment counts. When things are difficult, when it's the unpleasant Vedana, okay, I learn patience and courage and compassion. When it's a pleasant Vedana, I learn gratitude and joy and delight. So every moment counts. And that's what I think the curriculum here is for humans on the planet Earth. 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows. And they both make us fully human. So then you're processing that, but not getting stuck there. That's the thing. You don't want to get stuck there. And you need to remind yourself all that's good from time to time, or as much as can bring you balance and a big enough container to hold and not be overwhelmed by all the sorrow.
I'm struck, the first two items on the list, intention and mindfulness, compose one of this triad that the Buddha motions to in Majjhima Nikaya 117 of right view, right intention, and right mindfulness, which circle around every path factor and make it transcendent. So you're talking about those as the creation of the crucible that suffering can sit in and be joy held. And often I reference as a metric for people's practice flourishing, normalcy, and warmth. And I just see in you this kind of, you see it kind of coming through you. And James, one kind of follow-up question to the previous one for me would be, you may have some skillful means for people to cultivate that gratitude, that fourth right effort of, amplifying wholesome states in daily life, like a gratitude journal or something. But in meditation, how do you tap into that joy? If someone's been following the breath and it's dry, or trying to use the metta phrase, but it just stopped working 2 weeks ago, what instruction do you give a meditator for finding piti, pamoja, and sukha?
Well, first, kind of what I was pointing to before, you can't force it. People say, I'm trying so hard to be joyful. It just doesn't work. So you start with, as Pema Chodron wrote, you start where you are. And you just hold whatever is here. If it's dry, you hold the dryness with interest, investigation. That's, for me, a key. The second factor of enlightenment, investigation, where you're just curious. You're curious about boredom or dryness or sorrow, or so you can't, if there was a way I could magically turn the switch on for somebody, I would, but that's where it comes back to intention. Okay, the intention that whatever is here, I'm going to use to wake up. And that means being interested enough to meet this moment with grace, with courage, with patience, and with curiosity. Just for me, having a sense of wonder, that has always been one of my, it's my bent that, that's the same one that loved astronomy when I was a kid and saying, wow, or loves dancing or music, I should say, and singing. And that I'm thinking now, Jesus saying, unless you become like children, you will not know the kingdom of heaven. That really rings true for me. So there's a curiosity about whatever it is, not trying to force anything, but in that letting go of agenda, from even if it's a curiosity around a contracted state, if I can meet it with tenderness and with compassion, I'm big on self-compassion, and with interest, in the moment that you're saying, okay, let me see you, you're counteracting the aversion that says, I don't want this. And in that curiosity and that tender relationship, right there, you're relaxing the grip, the contraction. And as you start to notice the softening, that's all you need to do. You can't be greedy about it. Oh, good. Now I'm getting, no. You just pay attention and noticing, it's much better to pay attention here and to see what's going on and to meet it with friendliness. And sometimes people get impatient and say, I'm feeling so lousy. I want to just open my heart and love the world. And, I say, don't go for a gusher. Just go for the slightest softening and relaxing of that aversion, and then pay attention to how good that feels to not be caught in aversion and to just enjoy it and to be right where you are. And in that, if you can be right where you are with kindness and patience and interest, everything changes. We know that. And then you just surrender or trust that the awareness can meet this moment wisely. And then when you do start feeling, I'm feeling better now, don't miss it.
James, you mentioned curiosity, and a lot of people who are moving into Buddhism, certainly in America, they're not yet Buddhist. They're just Buddho curious. And it's just one curiosity among many. There is a high overlap in the Venn diagram of American Buddhist interests in activism as well. And you have that aspect of yourself as well, work with the One Earth Sangha. And it's interesting when people are kind of balancing their heads, trying to work out these different realms of their seemingly outward focused interests and their internal focused interests, there's a particular outside voice, which can be internalized, which actually argues one out of going to a meditation retreat. You've got a great name for that, which I think you call it the kumbaya factor. Could you speak about the kumbaya factor and how to kind of overcome that roadblock to potentially entering into a retreat and taking the time to, have this more internal sense of solid joy?
Yeah. It's not one way is better than the other. In my mind, they're both vital, because it's so easy to get spun out with the stimuli and just keeping up with life, let alone the news, that we need to take a break from there was that place, Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. And to take a break and just go inside and reconnect, instead of all out there, to reconnect with what's in here, so that you feel fully alive, but not to stop there, unless, well, even the Buddha set up, you can't go off by yourself and say, okay, goodbye world, you've got a begging bowl to put out every day, because he said, no, this being out in the world is an essential piece in this. So you go inside. For some, it might be going inside for a long time to go very deep. And I've been fortunate enough to have a number of periods that were transforming for me. But if it's only that's half the story. And if you put in later on, for me, I read most every retreat. At the end of the retreat, I read an excerpt from Bhikkhu Bodhi's essay, A Challenge to Buddhists, where he says, if you think this is a private journey just for those fortunate enough to meditate, you're missing the Buddha's message, and it's only half of the task, but it's to care for all the suffering in the world. You are connected to it all. So you don't want to be just going inside, and you don't want to just be going outside. There's that balance that really nourishes the inner world, so you come from a much more balanced place and a much more centered place and a much more effective place in your engagement. And for me, engagement is a very key piece of this all. I can share you again another story that might be useful for people. When I first got into understanding about the climate crisis emergency now, and then it was just a crisis, and it was like, whoa. I read Bill McKibben's book, Earth with 2 A's, because it's kind of like the facsimile of how Earth has been, where we're headed, right? And I read that book, and it really shook me. And just saying, whoa, I've been, teaching about joy, and like, I knew that it was bad, but that it, sometimes you read something and it just hits in a whole other level, where it's not just here, it's here all through me. And I was fortunate enough to connect with this friend, Lou Leonard, one of the co-founders of One Earth Sangha at that time, before One Earth Sangha existed. And he was the climate manager for World Wildlife Fund, and also a very dedicated practitioner. And he was at Spirit Rock, and I I got him. We were in the council house together, just the two of us. And I said, Lou, whoops, I get it. Well, that's the Dharma saying, okay. I said, I get it. We're really in trouble. And I don't know what to do here. All I've been doing is sharing the Dharma and teaching awakening joy. Tell me what I can do that will really make a difference. And he said, James, joy might be one of the most important things we need to remember. So you go on teaching about joy. And I said, whoa, okay, I can do that. And that's been my koan for these last 15, 17, however many years. Oh, okay. I want to teach about or share about all the good in life. And this is about showing up in this time of need. I visited Joanna Macy in March. She passed away in July. And I asked for her blessing on this program. Spirit Rock has been given a grant to create a climate program, a robust climate program for 3 years. We're in the first year of it now, and it might go for 10 years if we do it right these first 3 years. And I visited Joanna Macy, and I said, could you give a blessing on this program? And I have it I've recorded on my phone. It's one of the most precious things, this 2.5 minutes of brilliance. And she said, you're talking about being alive. I'm so glad I can, when she say, click my heels and toss my hat. Thought of, you're talking about being alive right now. I'm so glad to be alive right now. It's so wonderful that here we are to listen to the earth and to know this is a time for us to link arms together and do something fantastic in a time of great need. Mm. She says it a whole lot more eloquently than I can. And that's the transmission to not come from gloom and doom, although to know that's an understandable response, but to come from love and come from care and come from joy. You protect what you love. So it's important to remember why you love life and why what happens out there affects me, and what I do here affects everything out there. And the more one links arms together with others to do something fantastic, that is just doing what you can do from a place of joy. It's not up to you to fix the world, but to just come from your own love of life. That is magnetizing. Then people say, hey, I want to join your party. It's a whole lot different than, we're doomed. We're in trouble. I got to watch myself here. And you got to let go of the conclusions, let go of all conclusions, and know that my motto for quite some time now is impermanence rules. So whatever is happening now, this is not the end. And the pendulum swings from insanity to awakening. And so I want to be part of that.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And it's interesting to read your biography, read your book. One other concept you have in Awakening Joy is the bottom compartment, talking about that nasty bottom compartment of the refrigerator, which, things get lost in there and then they just start decaying and decomposing. And, two aspects of your life, in addition to having this inclination to link hands with others, you were a big part of the creation of Spirit Rock, which is one of not necessarily delinking, but at least temporarily, just sitting and taking time away. And it's interesting, we've all got our bottom compartment. And, I think it's the minority of Americans who meditate or who take 10 days or 7 days or even 3 days out of their year to actually sit for a period of time. And I'm curious if you could talk about that side of things, like the bottom compartment where someone might be everything else. All the other shelves of the refrigerator are doing great things. There's a lot of freshness and, providing nourishment to the world, but also the kind of innermost, things are putrefying down on that bottom shelf. And curious if you could also speak about the value of stepping back, giving people that permission.
The weak avocados of the world.
Yeah. And I want to give credit to Anam Thupten Rinpoche, a dear friend who I teach with and who came to the Joy class, and I asked him to talk about Sila, about living with integrity, and he came up with that image. I said, I'm going to use that in the book. We all have, until you're fully enlightened, there's stuff to work through. And shining a light of awareness is the best way. That's what purification is about. It's either putrefaction or purification. So I go for the purification, which takes some courage to say, okay, let's look at all this stuff in here. There's this, there's all of these things that I did when I didn't know better. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And that's part of the process, to look at it all and to forgive yourself for not knowing any better, and to make that commitment once you do know better. The Buddha says, it's one of my favorite suttas, you've covered it already in your Majjhima. I recommend to everybody, do the Mission Majjhima, the 10-minute Majjhima, number 61, where he says it's never too late. So if you've done something that you regret, and just see, wise remorse, just see what you've done, acknowledge the pain. Don't keep beating yourself up. I know that one. I'm paraphrasing him now. I'm something of an expert on guilt. I come from a lineage of guilt. Don't beat yourself up, but see, what can I learn from this? And I'm reborn in some way, like Angulimala was reborn. Okay, from here on in, I've learned, as one of my teachers says, as long as you're learning, there are no mistakes. And when I look back and I cringe and I say, I can't believe I did that. Cringing is a good sign. It means you're no longer that person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to, it's been a while since we've had refrigerators with lower shelves, but I do recall the anicca of avocados. With one question I wanted to ask James is, before we started the conversation here, we were talking a bit about the creation of Clare Mountain, and then you're kind of navigating the creation of Spirit Rock, and just this sense of, I think the way you put it was clear we weren't writing the script. Speaking of yourself and how, my father says this project is impossible and inevitable at the same time. Like there's something that really feels quite profound in that. And one aspect of this brightness that holds the heart, I find that's not spoken about in the West at all, is the realm, of devas and the supernatural and these deep karmic currents, which I know the first generation of Dharma teachers was quite hesitant to teach to or to speak to, and perhaps some, including yourself, I don't know, where your belief lies in those things. But if I could, what is your relationship to those hidden brighter elements which the Buddha spoke about, and whether do you believe them, literally, or if you do, do you have any stories for us, James?
Recollection of devas is one of the paths to pamoja, or well-being. So,
well, and first I just want to acknowledge you just discovered this piece of land, or are now committed to building a monastery on this piece of land, not that far from Seattle, and that's so exciting. And so I have some real mudita for you. And going back to when we were first looking for land at Spirit Rock, in that same way as you're pointing out, before I get to the devas, it wasn't like, can we really do this? This is honestly my internal experience. It was, of course, this is going to happen. That might have been. It wasn't hubris, because it wasn't us. It was just. I mean, retreats. We would be renting places, and they'd fill up, and have waiting lists and all. And it was inevitable. It didn't seem impossible. It just seemed like, okay, we just show up and do our part. And the Dharma, I did have this belief, the Dharma wants to do this. Now, whether, I don't know if I could say the devas, but I do believe in something much bigger than us. And to trust that there, I've had some discussions with Joseph Goldstein about this. I believe there is a benevolence to the universe. Albert Einstein said, perhaps the most important question a human being can ask is the universe friendly or not? I choose to believe that it's friendly, because underneath all the sorrow and joy, there's peace. So I feel that there's a force of goodness that wants to express itself, and that we just really need to be aligned with that goodness, that good energy, be a channel for it, and let ourselves be used well. And when we, at one point in Spirit Rock, it changed from, oh gosh, can we do all of this, to, oh, we are midwives to a process. And that just changed everything. Oh, of course, we just keep on doing our part and trust. And it's always worked out, always, that I've seen. I mean, if you take a small sample, a slice of life, it doesn't work out. But in the bigger picture, if I'm facing towards the direction of goodness and love and clarity, I think I'm doing okay. That's all I need to do. That's my job. And just trust that life is supporting me in that. That's what I try to communicate with others.
Well, James, thank you so much. We're getting close to the hour mark. The time has really flown by. You talk about I'm really moved by some of the concepts you bring up in your books. One of them is the elevation response. And I think just being around you is kind of elevating. And I can understand why people would take the Awakening Joy course. I think it opens up in a couple weeks. People can still join that.
Yes. I love sharing that. So I welcome everyone to join. Yeah. No one kept away because of finances, but so check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And yeah, just one final concept, at least for me, is just that of abundant enoughness, which, is one which I feel like the project of Spirit Rock, the way it was started and how we're hoping to start Clear Mountain, it does seem, as Ajahn Nisva's dad says, inevitable, impossible and inevitable. But, it seems like it'll happen. And once we get it, there's not really much there. So we're just going to have to be forced into our enoughness. But I think it'll feel very abundant. So, yeah.
Blessings on that project. It's really exciting, and I hope to come up and visit sometime.
That would mean a lot, James. And for what you've given the Dharmic landscape in North America, and kind of bringing this aspect of joy that's so missing, and not a joy that ignores the difficulties, but you really, having spoken to this race between consciousness and fear. And when you say, let's do something marvelous, I believe it. So yeah, please come and visit us soon.
Go team. Yeah.
And for those who want, actually, James is going to stick with us for Zoom. So I just pasted the link into the chat for those who want to join for a more intimate 45 minutes or so. And we'll just get to do that. And we'll see you over there, James. And please come visit us soon. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.